Thanks for hopping on today, and I know it's been a little bit of time since I've last posted, but for those of you that are new to the channel, my name's Jonah Clement, and I wanted to share today specifically with you kind of what I've been doing a little more recently in regards to meditation. You might have seen the title that I think everybody should meditate, and I really do hold that true in my heart. I do really think everybody should create a meditative practice that works specifically for them. And I really wanted to start by clearing up some misconceptions about meditation and kind of clarify that, meditation isn't only a monk sitting in the mountain, posing and attaining enlightenment and sitting there for 5 hours, just like doing their hums and their hymns and different, little chants and mantras. Meditation, in my opinion, is ultimately finding something that brings you into a state of peace and tranquility so that you can, in essence, maintain that state throughout the entirety of your day. So I'm a big proponent of meditating basically first thing in the morning when you wake up. Another misconception that I kind of want to clear up is, again, you don't have to sit still. It's not something where you have to remain perfectly still, and if a fly lands on you, it's like, oh no, a fly landed on me, I can't move. That's a misconception. That's, for maybe some types of meditation, that's very sitting still and remaining completely passive is incredibly important. I'm not a proponent of that. I, again, think that meditation is something that needs to be specific to each person and works for them. So with those misconceptions cleared up, I wanted to really move on to the different types. So really quickly, first one that you're probably all familiar with are like, some stuff that a lot of monks practice, a lot of Buddhist monks. You're thinking like Nepal, transcendental meditation, or in essence, like transcending beyond the human form. I don't practice really that at all. It might be something in the future I practice, but as of right now, it's not something I incorporate into my daily meditation practices. Another type is what I like to call walking or working meditation. So walking meditation is basically just walking, but there's a caveat. You're not going to bring your headphones. You're not going to be listening to music. You're literally just walking, and the focus and the intent is just focusing and work and just on the walk. That is literally all it is. It's not you're sitting there. It's not like walking around with headphones on to get exercise. It's literally walk for the purpose of walking, and then you kind of just allow your thoughts to come in, and you kind of just work through those and kind of let them in and flow. Another working meditation specifically would be something along the lines like you might have a garden, you might have a Zen garden. I know Buddhists have Zen gardens, and they in essence do working meditations when they go out and tend to their gardens. You can do the same thing, if you have a garden or mowing the lawn or anything like that. Something that is like a practice that kind of keeps you in a state of focusing on a intent or goal, but it's kind of almost like a clear thing where you can be thinking and kind of doing other things at the same time. And the last one I'm going to mention real quick is guided meditations. These are really popular nowadays. It's where you have some sort of guide. There's apps for this. There's YouTube channels. There's all sorts of stuff. But basically, you have somebody guiding you through meditation with a specific intent in mind. That's where most of my meditations draw from. It's usually that, and then just a standard kind of focusing or centering type of meditation. One that I'm a huge fan of, if you've ever heard of Jose Silva, he has some great guided meditations. So if you're ever looking into something like that, I would recommend him. He's fantastic. He has a couple books that he's written. So I would highly recommend guided meditations if you are kind of looking at starting this practice. So with that in mind, I kind of want to move on really quickly to the benefits of what I've seen currently. So just for some little context, I meditate personally anywhere between about an hour to an hour and a half a day. Now to clarify, that's not me sitting down all at one time. I would literally lose my mind if I had to sit down for an hour and just focus and just could not do anything except close my eyes and just literally just focus. I can't sit still for an hour. I can't, that would just be too much for me, at least at this point in time. And it's just like I have a lot of stuff that I think about, and that would just be too much. So that hour and a half is split out usually into multiple sessions, 15 to 30 minutes, depending on what I'm doing. But usually I meditate in the morning, sometime in the afternoon, midday, and then usually right before I go to sleep, I do a short meditation. But that's for me personally. I do it for specific reasons. I'm kind of working through specific, trying to have specific intent and practices that I'm building within my life. But some of the benefits I've seen, first one is increased intuition. That is one you probably hear all the time. You can Google You can literally do a Google search of like, what are the benefits of meditation? And you will get a laundry list, a literal list of just tons of stuff. There's been so many studies in the past 20 years about altered states of consciousness and what meditation does for that and the benefits that it comes with. So if you are interested in kind of getting more, I'm only going to mention a few here of the benefits of what potentially it could look like that you could get from maybe starting meditation practice or continuing yours or whatnot, or getting back into it. I would do a Google search. There are, again, hundreds of studies that have been done recently. There's also plenty of articles that'll just kind of break it down for you. So increased intuition, like I mentioned before. So basically that gut feeling you get about certain situations and whatnot, that becomes in essence heightened. It's almost like having a spidey sense in like, it is probably the best way to put it. It's like your senses are kind of almost in essence turned up to like an 11, but you're almost like, it's like this sixth sense that you have. It's like, some people call it ESP, all sorts of like extra sensory perception. But basically that gets turned up significantly to where you really have an understanding of when and when not to do things. It kind of nudges in certain directions. So that's one thing that I've seen. It's been awesome. It's really, really helpful when making decisions and kind of just being able to put trust in that rather than trying to like always do like a pros and cons list of certain things, because that always, the logical mind doesn't always have the doesn't always know everything. And I wouldn't say the intuition does either, but it definitely has a connection to something greater than ourselves. Another one that you probably know of is less stress. So it's not just like you have less stress, it's dealing with stressful situations, stressful people. You're able to deal with it in a much more centered or tranquil manner. So things that would normally set you off might not necessarily set you off, or they might do it at a different level to where it's like you might see, for example, like something on the news that really, really pushes your buttons the wrong way. It might just be like you get really angry and you're seething through your mouth and you're just like, oh, I'm so angry. That probably won't happen as much anymore. You'll obviously might still have that emotion because it's a trigger, but it's something where it's like toned down significantly, which is, I think, a great benefit. Also dealing with stressful situations and people, you're not like freaking out all the time if something doesn't go your way. You're kind of like, okay, life happens, and then you can move on a lot faster. That's another thing I've seen. Another big one is, again, kind of when you start to incorporate this over and over again and really get into the practice of it, you're able to, in essence, maintain a state of calmness and peace throughout the day, which is awesome operating from that space, because you're no longer, in essence, a slave to your mind or emotions. And I'm not going to say they're a slave to you, but rather than them controlling you, you control them. So it's like, you don't have to feel certain emotions. You get to select and choose what you feel, what you don't feel, the thoughts you have, the thoughts you don't want to listen to, the thoughts you want to listen to. You get to operate from a place of peace. You get to make decisions from a place of peace, which is ultimately where we should be making our decisions from to begin with, in my opinion, because it's like when you're operating from a level of like tranquility and understanding of just like internal calmness, it makes everything a lot easier because you're not going after, specific emotional fixes or whatnot. You're not like making decisions out of anger or even happiness or sadness or whatnot. It's funny because people are like, why don't you want to make a decision out of happiness? And I'm like, sometimes making a decision out of happiness isn't always the right decision, because you're happy and sometimes your perceptions can be a little bit clouded and your intuition can be a little bit clouded because things make you feel good. So pleasure can be one of the biggest distractions there is, but operating out of a place of peace and not operating out of a place of emotion or out of a place of, over logic, you're not going to talk yourself into circles. You're going to be fine. So last thing is I'll mention really quick is you really start to cultivate a relationship with yourself. It basically, in essence, the concept of knowing thyself. So you get to really get an understanding of your mind, your patterns that you have, the things that you think, which is fantastic, as you can start seeing like why you feel certain things, how you would respond to certain situations, different people. And you can start to, in essence, change those patterns. Another great thing about this is you really get to know yourself internally and really get to know, get to cultivate a relationship with yourself to where it's like, I don't like saying becoming friends with your own mind or becoming friends with yourself, but it really is in a sense like you do befriend your essence or befriend your own mind to where you're not so critical of everything you do. You're not always beating yourself up over every little thing because you kind of understand why you do things, where they come from, and you can change those patterns. So those are the benefits that I've really seen. There's tons more that I've seen, but I'm not going to really mention those because those are smaller. But again, if you're interested in finding those out, you can always do a Google search. I would recommend that if you're kind of looking into starting meditation. So kind of the last thing I wanted to leave with was like how to start. So if people are interested, and if you're interested in getting started in meditating, like you've not done it before, or if like you've meditated in the past but you want to get back into it, or you're meditating now but things aren't really working for you, or you're kind of on and off about it. That's how I was when I first started. I was kind of like on and off because I was like, this is a little bit difficult to do this every day for like 10 to 15 minutes, but I didn't really find what was good for me. So I'm gonna give you some. I'm gonna give you some little bit of advice from what I've seen. And I've been doing this, again, I'm not a yogi. I've been doing this for 10 years. I've been doing this for decades. This is something I've dedicated my life to. This is just something that I've incorporated in my life to just kind of get a stronger center and, in essence, get better at it. So one of the things, first off, is you got to just start at some point. Just like anything, any habit you're trying to make or anything that you're trying to do, you got to just start it. So if you want to be it today, tomorrow, I would just say do it today. You can start with 5 minutes. Literally sit down. One of the things that I did to start off was the first time I meditated really with intent to like wanting to get this as like something in my life. I literally sat down for 5 minutes and just focused on my breathing. I did a breath in, counted to 3, held my breath for a second, and then breathed out for 3 seconds. And I did that for 5 minutes. I set a little timer, and that was my daily meditation. I did that for like a week or two, and I saw some pretty significant benefit because it kind of, in essence, allowed me, when I was in stressful situation, that almost was like programmed to just kind of do a quick breathe in and breathe out exercise, and just kind of got that stress or whatever out of my system. So you got to just start at some point. I would recommend 5 minutes a day. If you're gonna, wanting to kick this off, you can go up to 30 minutes. I don't recommend 30 minutes starting off. It's just kind of like weightlifting. So in essence, I'm going to give a quick example, a side note of weightlifting. So like for weightlifting, you should never just go in. Typically, it's not smart to just go in and do a heavy 2-hour workout if you've never weightlifted before. It is dangerous. You can hurt yourself. Your muscles aren't really prepared to have such a overloading of all this weight and volume that you're throwing on. So the way you do weightlifting is you do slow increments, repetition, and increase over time so that your body gets stronger and basically builds more muscle. Same thing with weight loss. You don't just, you should really go about it slow. You shouldn't try to crash diet. That's how you can mess things up and just, yo-yo your weight all over the place. So just like meditation, I recommend doing it in small doses. So start at 5 minutes a day for maybe a week, and then maybe a month. And then once you're feeling comfortable with that, maybe up it to 10 minutes. And then, after you get comfortable with 10 minutes, go to 15 minutes. And then once you get to 15 minutes, maybe you can do multiple sessions a day. That's what I did, and it works great. So now like I said earlier, I do between 3 to 4 short 15 to 30-minute meditation sessions a day. I never do more than one 30-minute session. That would be too much, but I usually do 3 to 4 15-minute sessions a day because that's something that I learned that I enjoy and that I can continually doing. So another thing I'd recommend is trying to start meditation by yourself. The breathing thing's a great one to start if you don't really want to go outside of yourself to kind of get this going. I do highly recommend guided meditations. They're really easy because they allow you to go into the meditation with an intent. Somebody kind of provides you what to focus on, and if you're doing there's breathing meditations that are guided. There's visualization, meditations, things like that, but it really allows you to have a focus and an intent going through the meditation. And it makes it to where you can focus your mind on certain things and it's not just wandering all over the place. There's nothing wrong with mind wandering. I think that's actually a benefit because you just kind of let your thoughts flow in and flow out. But I do highly recommend guided meditations. I think they're very helpful when you're first getting started off. They kind of keep you consistent because it's okay, I know what I'm doing today, I know what I'm doing tomorrow, I know what I'm doing the day after that. Now, I'm just going to mention a few things. None of these I'm not paid promotions or anything like that. I don't have any advertisement contracts or anything with them. I'm just literally going to mention things that I have used in the past. First one I used personally. It's called Balanced. It's available on the Apple Store. I believe it's on Android too. I really enjoyed that. They have anywhere between 5 to 30 minute guided meditations with a range of different topics, from breathing to visualization to if you're want to do a gratitude meditation. There's all different types of meditations. I highly recommend it. It's great. I know they have they have free meditations. I use the paid one I enjoyed that. They offered a pretty decent deal on it. I think it was like a year for like $60, and you had access to it for the entire year. I'm not saying you have to use it. If you don't want to pay for something, there's YouTube. There's tons of guided meditations on YouTube. I also know another app that a lot of people like to use called Headspace. So there's plenty of stuff to go out there and use if you're interested in a guided meditation. All right. So if you have any questions on that, you can leave it in the comments. I'm happy to give any of my feedback on the things that I've used, but I highly recommend guided meditation if you've never done it before. It's very, very helpful. And again, it provides intent behind what you're doing. Next thing is you got to be consistent. You need to be consistent with meditation. It's not something just like losing weight, just like working out. You have to be consistent. Maybe just doing it a few times a week is fine starting off, but I would highly recommend doing it every day, at minimum for 5 minutes. It's just like if you're trying to gain muscle or lose weight, you have to be doing the same thing over and over again. Your mind is in essence like a muscle, similar to how you go to the gym. If you want to get your arms stronger or your chest stronger, you need to do bench press, a couple of times a week. If you want to get your arms stronger, you need to curl a couple of times a week or do some type of bicep exercise. If you're trying to lose weight, you need to eat in a deficit, and you need to be, probably doing some exercise every day to maintain that deficit to, incrementally lose weight over time. Your mind's the exact same way. You need to train your mind. So in essence, if you view your mind as in essence a muscle, it's just a different type of muscle. It focuses on, like learning. It's like training. You need to train your mind just like you train your body if you're trying to get in shape or lose weight or whatnot. So be consistent. Even if it's 5 minutes a day, that's a good start. And do what works for you. I'm not going to tell you what to do. I'm just giving my advice on be consistent. It is really, really important you're consistent. Consistency is key, okay? It's better to do a meditation 5 minutes a day every morning than to just do one big one 30 minutes a day during the week. I guarantee you, if you do it 5 minutes a day every single day, that'll stick with you than doing one meditation a week for 30 minutes. Like, there's just so much research on habit building around that. So just like, if you're interested in that, if you're interested in meditation, you have to be consistent. I would probably even recommend, it's called habit stacking. I heard this from just one of the outlets I watch in terms of kind of this content. Do it after. So if you eat breakfast or when you first get up, do it right when you get up, just 5 minutes. If you do it after you eat breakfast, do it after you eat lunch. Do it after you do something that's consistent, because that builds the habit a lot faster. Last thing, and this is probably the most important one out of everything besides consistency. Consistency is key, but I would say even more important than consistency, do something you enjoy doing, okay? Figure out a form of meditation, a meditative practice that you enjoy doing. If you can't sit down for 5 minutes, I don't recommend sitting down and trying to do a 5-minute meditation. That's not going to work. You can, sometimes if you do it enough, you're like, oh yeah, I do enjoy this. But for most people, if you don't like doing something, it takes time again, because it's going to feel weird at first, but do something that you know that you could stick with, okay? Don't just try to jump into it and do 30 minutes. I guarantee you it's going to become very difficult, because it's like, that's like 30 minutes stacks over a time, and you're going to be sitting there like, wow, this feels a lot longer than 30 minutes, because like you have no time perception when you're like basically closing your eyes, because you're in essence getting a few states above the level of sleep. So if walking meditation might work for you, working meditation might work for you, but figure out something that works for you. Again, I recommend guided meditations. I think they're great, but figure out a practice that works for you. That is the most important thing when building any habit, specifically meditation. You've got to figure out something that works for you. And again, it's something where if you want to incorporate this into your life, just like working out, reading, or anything, figure out something that you enjoy. So like some people don't like weightlifting, do something else. Another example is like, I think everybody should exercise. I straight up think everyone should exercise. If you don't like weightlifting, go running. If you don't like running, go swimming. There's tons of things to do. So with that, I'm going to leave you there. If you have any questions, leave a comment below. Be happy to answer any of them. But other than that, I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day, and enjoy meditation.